The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the sprawling estate of the Kim family. The mansion was a stunning blend of modern architecture and traditional Korean elements, standing tall amidst manicured gardens that whispered secrets of wealth and power. For most, this place was a sanctuary of luxury, but for Elena, it was merely a backdrop to her daily grind. As a maid in this opulent world, she was a ghost, seen but rarely acknowledged. Elena had learned to navigate the intricacies of her job with grace and resilience. Her days began before dawn, waking up in her small apartment, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the mansion. She would lace her worn-out shoes, pull her dark hair into a neat bun, and set off on her bicycle, the wind brushing against her face, reminding her of the freedom she often yearned for. Each morning, she would pass by the towering gates of the estate, a reminder of the life she served but did not belong to. Inside the mansion, the air was always thick with tension and expectation. The staff moved in a choreographed rhythm, completing their tasks as if under the watchful eye of the powerful man who owned it all. Mr. Jin Kim, the Korean Mafia boss, was both revered and feared. He commanded respect with his mere presence, a man whose cold gaze could freeze a room. Rumors circulated about him like wildfire, stories of loyalty, betrayal, and a past that shaped him into the formidable figure he was today. Elena had seen glimpses of him from afar, his tailored suits accentuating his broad shoulders, his calm demeanor belying the storm that raged beneath. She often caught herself stealing glances at him, fascinated by the enigma he presented. Was he really as heartless as the stories claimed, or was there more to him than met the eye? The day unfolded like any other, with Elena meticulously dusting the ornate furniture in the grand living room. She moved with purpose, her mind occasionally drifting to the life she had left behind when she took this job. There was a time when she had dreams of becoming a writer, weaving stories of love and adventure. But reality had a way of tethering her to the ground, and now she found herself in a world where her voice was silenced, her dreams buried beneath the weight of her responsibilities. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As the clock struck noon, Elena felt a familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach. The staff was preparing for a gathering that evening, a meeting of influential figures that would undoubtedly include Mr. Kim. The tension in the air was palpable, and Elena could sense the unease among her coworkers. They whispered about the potential threats that might come from rival factions, and Elena couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. While she washed the delicate china in the kitchen, she overheard snippets of conversations about loyalty and the importance of silence in the Mafia world. The stakes were high, and the risks tangible. It was a world she had inadvertently become a part of, a world that thrived on secrets and shadows. As evening approached, the atmosphere shifted. The staff prepared for the arrival of the guests, and Elena found herself caught in a whirlwind of activity. She arranged the table with precision, her heart racing as she caught sight of Mr. Kim entering the room. His presence seemed to command the space, and for a moment, time stood still. The way he carried himself, confident yet cautious, was magnetic. He scanned the room, his dark eyes piercing through the dim light. Elena felt a rush of heat flood her cheeks as their eyes met briefly, a connection that sent shivers down her spine. She quickly looked away, focusing on her task, but the moment lingered in her mind. There was something about him that drew her in, a curiosity that bordered on obsession. As the guests arrived, laughter and chatter filled the mansion, drowning out Elena's thoughts. She moved like a shadow, serving drinks and hors d'oeuvres, her heart racing each time she crossed paths with Mr. Kim. It was in those fleeting moments that she felt a pull toward him, an inexplicable connection that left her questioning everything she thought she knew about herself. Hours passed, and the gathering grew more animated. Elena caught snippets of conversation that hinted at the complexities of the Mafia world, loyalties tested, alliances formed, and the constant threat of betrayal lurking in the shadows. She listened intently, her heart pounding as she absorbed the dangerous allure of the life that surrounded her. Then, amidst the laughter and clinking glasses, a commotion erupted. A group of men entered the room, their demeanor tense. Elena felt a shift in the air, a palpable sense of danger that made her heart race. The atmosphere went cold, and she instinctively took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to retreat. Mr. Kim's expression hardened as he faced the newcomers. Elena watched as he stood tall, a figure of power and authority. The tension escalated, and the room fell silent, all eyes on the unfolding drama. It was a stark reminder of the world she had stumbled into, a world where power was everything and danger lurked around every corner. As the confrontation unfolded, Elena felt a mix of fear and fascination. She was witnessing the raw reality of the Mafia. The stakes were high, and lives were hanging in the balance. It was a world she had never wanted to be a part of, yet here she was, an unwilling spectator to the chaos that surrounded her. Just as the tension reached its peak, a sudden crash echoed through the room, drawing everyone's attention. A glass shattered on the floor, and the chaos erupted anew. Amidst the confusion, Elena felt a hand grip her wrist, pulling her away from the chaos. She turned to see Mr. Kim, his expression fierce yet urgent. "Come with me," he commanded, his voice low and intense. Elena's heart raced as she was led through the crowd, her mind spinning. There was an undeniable magnetism in his presence, a power that both intimidated and intrigued her. As they reached a secluded corner of the mansion, away from prying eyes, he turned to face her, his expression softening for a brief moment. "Are you all ready?" he asked, concern lacing his tone. Elena nodded, unable to find her voice. She was acutely aware of the closeness between them, the electric tension that filled the air. For a moment, the world outside faded away, and all that existed was this unexpected connection, a fragile thread that linked them together in this tumultuous moment. But reality came crashing back as voices echoed in the distance, the chaos of the gathering pulling her away from the intimacy of their exchange. She took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. "I should get back," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Kim's gaze held hers, a mix of intensity and vulnerability that made her breath hitch. "Wait," he said, his voice low. "I need to know. Do you trust me?" Elena's mind raced. Trust was a fragile thing in this world, especially in the shadows of the Mafia. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw a flicker of something genuine, something that hinted at the man beneath the powerful facade. I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. His expression hardened again, the weight of his world pressing down on him. "You may not have a choice," he said, a hint of vulnerability breaking through. "The danger is real, and you're already in it, deeper than you think." As those words hung in the air, Elena felt the gravity of her situation. She was caught in a web of danger, a witness to a life she had never wanted, but found herself inexplicably drawn to. The connection between them was undeniable, yet fraught with peril. "Just remember," he said, his voice a low whisper, "if anything happens, I will protect you." And with that, he turned, slipping back into the chaos of the gathering, leaving Elena standing there, a whirlwind of emotions battling within her. She felt a sense of foreboding, mixed with an undeniable attraction, a dangerous cocktail that threatened to consume her. As the night wore on, Elena found herself grappling with the reality of her situation. She was a maid, a woman of humble means, thrust into a world of power and intrigue. The pull she felt toward Mr. Kim was both exhilarating and terrifying, a dance on the edge of a knife that could cut deep. But deep down, beneath the layers of fear and uncertainty, a spark ignited within her, a flicker of courage and curiosity that urged her to explore this connection further. She was drawn to him, to the danger that surrounded him, and to the possibility of something more. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Elena knew one thing for certain. Her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. And as she looked out into the night, she felt a sense of anticipation mixed with trepidation, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The story of her life was just beginning, and she was determined to write her own narrative amidst the chaos of the Mafia world. The air in the luxurious mansion was thick with an unspoken tension. As Elena moved silently through the grand hallways, her footsteps soft against the polished marble floor. 3 years had passed since that fateful night when her life entangled with the enigmatic figure of Mr. Kim, the powerful Mafia boss. Yet the memory of their first encounter lingered like a shadow in the back of her mind, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beneath the surface of their connection. Elena had thrown herself into her work as a maid, determined to carve a life for herself amidst the opulence that surrounded her. The air in the luxurious mansion was thick with an unspoken tension. As Elena moved silently through the grand hallways, her footsteps soft against the polished marble floor. 3 years had passed since that fateful night when her life entangled with the enigmatic figure of Mr. Kim, the powerful Mafia boss. That the memory of their first encounter lingered like a shadow in the back of her mind, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beneath the surface of their connection. Elena had thrown herself into her work as a maid, determined to carve a life for herself amidst the opulence that surrounded her. She was diligent, her hands often busy dusting the ornate furniture and polishing the silverware that glimmered in the candlelight. As she worked, she found solace in the routine, yet she could never fully shake the feeling that something extraordinary was waiting just beyond her reach. On this particular evening, the mansion was alive with the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. Mr. Kim was hosting a gathering for his closest associates, a mix of businessmen and figures from the underworld, all dressed in tailored suits that whispered of their power and influence. Elena had seen glimpses of this world over the years, often staying hidden in the background, but tonight felt different. The atmosphere buzzed with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. As she passed by the expansive living room, she caught sight of Mr. Kim, his imposing figure standing out even among the well-dressed guests. He exuded authority, the way he commanded attention without uttering a single word. His dark hair was slicked back, and his sharp features were accentuated by the soft glow of the chandeliers above. But beneath that polished exterior, Elena sensed a depth of emotion that only she had been privy to. He had opened up to her in ways he never did with anyone else, revealing fragments of a past that haunted him. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. As she continued her work, she couldn't help but steal glances at him. His eyes, usually cold and calculating, held a flicker of something softer when he looked in her direction. It was a gaze that sent her heart racing, igniting a mixture of fear and longing within her. She had fought against her feelings for him, knowing the risks involved in becoming too close to a man like him. But as she watched him navigate the crowd with effortless charm, she felt the familiar pull toward the danger that surrounded him. "Are you lost in thought, Elena?" a voice interrupted her reverie. It was Sarah, one of the other maids, who had become a close friend. She smirked knowingly, her eyes darting toward Mr. Kim. "You've been staring at him for a while now." Elena felt her cheeks flush, and she quickly averted her gaze. "I was just working," she replied, trying to sound casual. "Right, working," Sarah teased, crossing her arms. "You know, I've seen the way he looks at you. There's something there, I swear." Elena shook her head, a mix of amusement and disbelief washing over her. He's a mafia boss, Sarah. He's not interested in someone like me. Maybe not, but don't underestimate the power of attraction, Sarah replied, her tone playful. You never know what might happen. Just then, a loud laugh echoed from the living room, drawing both their attention. Mr. Kim had just shared a joke with one of his associates, the tension in his shoulders easing momentarily. Elena's heart skipped a beat as she caught his eye, and for a fleeting moment, the world around them faded away. It was just the two of them, locked in a gaze that spoke volumes. But reality crashed back in as the laughter faded, and Elena turned back to her tasks, reminding herself of the boundaries that existed between them. She had worked hard to keep her emotions in check, focused on her job and the life she was building for herself. Yet the deeper she waded into Mr. Kim's world, the more she felt her resolve weakening. As the night wore on, Elena's thoughts drifted back to the secrets she had uncovered about him over the years. The stories whispered in the shadows, the aura of danger that clung to him like a second skin. It all fascinated her. She had witnessed his moments of vulnerability, glimpses of a man burdened by his past. There were nights when she had caught him staring out at the city skyline, a look of deep sorrow etched on his face. "Do you ever wonder what it's like to be him?" Sarah asked. "To have that much power?" Elena shrugged, her expression contemplative. "Power comes with a price. I don't think I could handle it." But deep down, a part of her was drawn to the allure of that power. It was intoxicating, the thought of being by his side, of standing against the world together. Yet the reality of his life was one drenched in uncertainty, and she knew she had to tread carefully. Just as she finished tidying up, a commotion erupted from the living room. Elena's heart raced as she rushed to the doorway, peering in to see what was happening. A heated argument had broken out between two men, their voices rising above the pleasant chatter that had filled the room just moments before. Mr. Kim stood in the center, his expression darkening as he tried to diffuse the tension. "Elena," a voice called, snapping her back to the moment. It was Mr. Sim. Kim, his eyes locking onto hers with an urgency that sent a chill down her spine. "Come here, please." Panic surged through her as she stepped forward, the eyes of the room now on her. She could feel the weight of their gazes, the curiosity and speculation hanging in the air. But it was Mr. Kim's commanding presence that drew her closer, the way he held himself, even in chaos, that kept her from turning away. As she reached him, he leaned in slightly, his voice low and intense. "I need you to help me with something. Can you do that?" Her heart raced at the closeness, the intoxicating scent of his cologne enveloping her. "Of course," she replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Good," he said, his eyes narrowing as he glanced back at the bickering men. "I need you to take care of the drinks for the guests. Make sure everyone stays calm." Elena nodded, her heart pounding as she turned to fulfill his request. She understood that this was more than just a task. It was an opportunity for her to step into his world, to be a part of something bigger. As she moved through the crowd, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. The drinks flowed, and the guests began to settle down, the tension slowly dissipating as laughter returned. Elena watched from the periphery, her gaze drifting back to Mr. Kim. He seemed to command the room effortlessly, but she could see the flicker of concern in his eyes. It was a reminder that beneath the cool exterior lay a man constantly battling the demons of his past. Later in the evening, as the party began to wind down, Elena found herself in the kitchen, cleaning up the remnants of the night. The clinking of glasses and low murmur of conversations faded into the background as she lost herself in the rhythm of her work. Just then, the door swung open, and in walked Mr. Kim, his expression softer now, the weight of the night lifting slightly. "Elena," he said, his voice warm, "thank you for handling everything tonight. You did well." Her heart soared at his praise, and she turned to face him fully, wiping her hands on the dish towel. "I'm just doing my job, sir." "Your job," he repeated, stepping closer. "But it's more than that. You have a way of making this place feel welcoming." Elena felt her cheeks heat up under his gaze, the intensity of his presence drawing her in. "I try my best," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've noticed," he said, his eyes searching hers. "You're different from everyone else. You see things others overlook." His words wrapped around her, igniting a fire within. "I just see what's in front of me," she said, keeping her tone light despite the weight of the moment. "No," he corrected softly, his gaze unwavering. "You see me." The air thickened between them, the distance closing, as Elena felt the pull of his words. It was a connection that transcended their roles, a moment where the world outside faded away, leaving just the two of them standing on the precipice of something profound. Yet the reality of their lives loomed large, a reminder of the barriers that separated them. Before she could respond, the moment shattered as another guest stumbled into the kitchen, oblivious to the tension that had just sparked. Elena quickly stepped back, her heart racing as the guest began chatting with Mr. Kim about the night's events. She forced herself to smile, but inside, her thoughts swirled with confusion and longing. As the evening drew to a close, Elena returned to her room, her mind racing with the weight of their conversation. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between them, a shift that could lead to both danger and desire. The walls of the mansion felt both comforting and confining, a world she was drawn to, yet terrified of entering fully. In the days that followed, Elena found herself navigating the complexities of her feelings for Mr. Kim. The moments they shared were laced with an electric tension, each interaction charged with unspoken words. She had glimpsed the man behind the Mafia facade, and it both terrified and exhilarated her. One evening, as she was finishing her shift, she caught Mr. Kim watching her from the doorway. His expression was inscrutable, a mixture of longing and something else that she couldn't quite decipher. "Elena," he called softly, beckoning her closer. She took a deep breath, steeling herself as she approached him. "Yes, sir?" "Can you join me for a moment?" he asked, his voice low and inviting. Her heart raced as she nodded, stepping into the dimly lit office where he often worked. The ambiance was different, the tension palpable as they stood alone together. She could feel the heat radiating from him, the air thick with unspoken emotions. "Sit," he instructed, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Elena complied, her hands resting nervously in her lap as he leaned against the desk, his gaze locked onto hers. "I wanted to talk to you about something important." Her breath caught in her throat, anticipation building as she waited for him to continue. "What is it?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flutter of nerves. "I've been thinking about you, about us," he confessed, his voice vulnerable. "You've become an essential part of my life, more than I ever expected." Elena's heart raced at his words, the weight of his confession settling in her chest. Before she could finish, the door swung open abruptly, and one of his associates entered the room, disrupting the fragile moment. "Mr. Kim, we need to discuss the shipment for tomorrow," the man said, oblivious to the tension that had just unfolded. Elena felt her heart sink as Mr. Kim glanced at her, a mixture of frustration and regret flashing across his face. "Not now," he replied, curtly dismissing the man with a wave of his hand. As the associate left, the moment had passed, and Elena felt the heaviness of unspoken words lingering in the air. "I should get back to work," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," he said, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming. "I don't want you to go." The conflict in his eyes mirrored her own internal struggle. She knew the risks, yet the desire to bridge the gap between them grew stronger. "Mr. Kim, this is complicated. "I know," he replied, his voice low and earnest, "but I can't ignore what I feel for you." Her heart raced as she searched his eyes, the vulnerability he showed pulling her closer. "And what is that?" she asked, her voice trembling with anticipation. "Something real," he said, his gaze unwavering. "Something worth fighting for." As Elena met his gaze, her heart raced with the possibilities that lay ahead. For the first time, she felt the weight of their connection, the potential for something more than just a fleeting moment. But as the shadows of his world loomed large, she knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. In that moment, the bond between them solidified, a promise unspoken, yet felt deeply within their souls. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that their intertwined fates were only just beginning to unfold. As the sun dipped behind the skyline of the city, casting an orange glow over the luxurious mansion, Elena felt a weight on her chest that she couldn't quite shake off. The lavish surroundings, once a source of wonder, now felt like a gilded cage. It had been 3 years since that fateful encounter with Ji-hoon, the enigmatic Mafia boss who had turned her world upside down. In the time since, their relationship had grown, but with it came the shadows of his dangerous life that loomed ever larger. Elena had embraced her role as a part of Ji-hoon's life, yet she often wondered if she had fully grasped the depth of the world he inhabited. The lavish parties, the whispered conversations among men in dark suits, and the constant tension that seemed to vibrate in the air were a stark contrast to her once simple life. Still, she found herself drawn to him, every moment spent together charged with an unspoken chemistry that ignited her heart. But as she prepared dinner that evening, a sense of dread clung to her. She had seen the changes in Ji-hoon. His demeanor grew darker as he navigated the treacherous waters of his empire. The man who had once shown her vulnerability now wore his cold facade like armor. She sighed, stirring the simmering sauce, and glanced out the large kitchen window. The city below buzzed with life, but in her heart she felt a storm brewing. Before she could linger on her thoughts, the door to the kitchen swung open, and Ji-hoon stepped inside. He was dressed impeccably as always, his tailored suit accentuating his strong frame. But the tension in his jaw and the furrow in his brow revealed the weight he carried. As he approached, she felt a flutter in her stomach, a reminder of the undeniable connection they shared, but it was laced with concern. "Elena," he said, his voice low and commanding, yet softened by an undercurrent of warmth. "I need to talk to you." "What's going on?" She set down the wooden spoon and turned to face him, her expression shifting from curiosity to worry. There was a long pause as he stepped closer, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words. "There's been a situation within the family," he began, his gaze intense, searching hers for understanding. "A betrayal. We've lost a valuable ally, and I need to tighten security around you." Elena's breath hitched. "What do you mean? Is it dangerous?" He hesitated, the shadows flickering across his face as he weighed his words. "I can't explain everything, but you need to understand that there are forces at play that would see you harmed to get to me." Panic surged through her. "And what about us? What about our life?" Ji-hoon stepped even closer, lowering his voice. "I will do whatever it takes to protect you, to keep you safe. But you must trust me, Elena. You must stay close." She nodded, feeling the gravity of his words. Trust had become an unspoken contract between them, tested time and again by the realities of his world. But as the tension simmered in the air, Elena could sense the emotional distance he had placed between them. It was as if the walls he built to shield her from his life were also trapping him. "Ji-hoon," she started, but he cut her off, his expression shifting as he stepped back, pulling away from the connection they had forged. "I need to handle this," he said firmly, but she could see the flicker of vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior. "I can't let anything happen to you." Her heart ached at the sight of him, the man she loved standing before her, yet so far away. I understand you want to protect me, but you don't have to do this alone. We're a team, remember? I can't risk it, he replied, his voice strained. The Mafia world is treacherous, and I won't have you caught in the crossfire. Just then, the sound of a child's laughter echoed from the living room, pulling both of their attention. A small figure, a boy with dark hair and bright eyes, dashed through the doorway, his laughter a melody of innocence. Elena's heart swelled with joy, and she couldn't help but smile. "Day," she called softly, kneeling to embrace him. The little boy wrapped his arms around her, his warmth a stark contrast to the tension in the room. "Mommy, can we play now?" Elena's heart tightened at the term. "Of course, sweetheart. Just give me a moment, okay?" She glanced back at Ji-hoon, who stood frozen, his gaze locked on the scene before him. "Ji-hoon," she began, but he interrupted her with a sigh, his features softening as he looked at his son. "Day," he called, kneeling down to the boy's level. "You should be careful, okay? There are things you don't understand yet." Day looked between them, his innocent face nonetheless sensing the tension in the air. "Is everything okay?" he asked, his voice small. Elena wanted to shield him from the harsh truths of their lives, to preserve the innocence of his childhood. "Everything is fine, sweetheart," she assured him, forcing a smile. But as Ji-hoon stood, a shadow crossed his expression. "No, Day, not everything is fine, but I promise I'll make it right." The boy's brow furrowed, confusion evident. "Can we go to the park tomorrow?" Ji-hoon's face softened, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. "Of course, son. Just stay close to your mother, all right?" Elena watched as Ji-hoon's attention shifted to Day, a flicker of warmth breaking through the icy exterior he had donned. But she could still feel the tension between them. The love they shared was palpable, yet the walls they built around their emotions were equally strong. "Mommy, can we go now?" Day tugged at her hand, breaking the silence that hung in the air. "Yes, let's play," she said, standing up and trying to shake off the weight of their earlier conversation. As she led Day to the living room, she glanced back at Ji-hoon, who now stood alone, his expression unreadable. She felt a pang of concern for him, knowing that whatever crisis loomed over them was weighing heavily on his shoulders. Hours slipped by, filled with laughter and games, as she and Day played on the plush carpet of the living room, but the shadow of Ji-hoon's burden lingered in the corners of her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, a storm that would test the fragile bonds they had built together. Later that night, as she tucked Day into bed, she couldn't help but reflect on the life they had created together. The boy was a mix of both of them, bearing Ji-hoon's strong features and her gentle spirit. Their love had blossomed into something beautiful, yet dangerous, and she knew that the stakes had never been higher. After checking on Day one last time, she made her way to the master bedroom, her heart racing as she approached Ji-hoon. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head bent in thought, the weight of the world etched into his features. "Ji-hoon," she said, stepping closer, "we need to talk about what you said earlier." He lifted his gaze to meet hers, and for a moment, both of them were silent, caught in the depths of their shared fears and hopes. "I don't want you to be part of this," he finally said, the pain in his voice palpable. "I can't bear the thought of you getting hurt because of me." "But I am part of this, Ji-hoon," she replied, her voice steady. "I love you. I love Day. You can't shut me out. We face this together." His eyes darkened, and she could see the turmoil within him. "You don't understand the depths of this world. It's dangerous, and I can't let anyone get hurt because of my choices." "Then let me help you make those choices," she urged, desperation creeping into her voice. "I won't let you carry this alone." He shook his head, standing up and moving toward the window, the city lights casting a glow around him. "You can't help me. You don't know what they're capable of. And you don't know what I'm capable of either," she challenged, stepping closer. I'm not afraid of your world, Ji-hoon. I'm afraid of losing you. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. Ji-hoon turned to face her, his eyes filled with a storm of emotions, fear, rage, and an undeniable love that made her heart ache. What if something happens to you today? Then we face it together, she insisted, her voice unwavering. You and we're stronger together. You taught me that. The vulnerability in his eyes softened her resolve, and as they stood there, the distance between them began to shrink. She reached out, placing her hand on his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her palm. We are a family, Ji-hoon, a real family, and I won't let anything tear us apart. Promise me you'll stay safe, he whispered, his voice cracking as he leaned closer, their foreheads almost touching. I promise, she said, her voice steady, locking eyes with him. But you have to promise me too. You'll let me in. No more walls between us. He breathed in deeply, a flicker of hope igniting within him. Okay, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll try. Their lips met in a tender kiss, a moment of connection that melted the barriers they had both built. It was a promise, a vow to navigate the storm together, no matter what lay ahead. But just as the warmth of their embrace enveloped them, the piercing sound of a phone ringing shattered the moment. Ji-hoon pulled away, his expression shifting as he glanced at his phone, the urgency in his eyes returning. It's my contact, he said, tension returning to his voice. I need to take this. Elena nodded, watching as he answered, his demeanor shifting back into the cold, calculating Mafia boss she had come to know. The conversation was brief, filled with coded language and urgency, and she felt her heart sink as the reality of his world crashed back in. As he hung up the phone, his face was a mask of determination. I have to go, he said, the gravity of his words settling heavy in the air. Now? She asked, her heart racing with fear. Can't it wait? No, he replied, his expression hardening. There's been movement we can't ignore. I'll be back as soon as I can. Panic rose within her, and she stepped forward, grasping his hand. Ji-hoon, please be careful. I can't bear the thought of losing you. He squeezed her hand tightly, his gaze softening for a moment. You won't lose me, he promised. But as he stepped back, the distance between them felt insurmountable once again. With one last lingering look, he turned and left the room, leaving Elena standing alone in the dim light, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She could feel the storm brewing, the weight of their lives hanging in the balance. As she lay in bed that night, sleep evaded her. She stared at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts of Ji-hoon, Dae, and the precarious situation they found themselves in. She had to trust him, she reminded herself, but the fear of what lay ahead gnawed at her. Hours passed, filled with the sound of the city outside, but her heart remained restless. She knew that the next day would bring new challenges, new tests of their love and commitment. As dawn broke, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold, she resolved to stand by Ji-hoon no matter the cost. She would be his strength, his partner, and together they would face whatever darkness awaited them. Because love, she believed, could conquer even the most treacherous of worlds. And with that thought, she finally drifted into a fitful sleep, the weight of their future resting heavily on her heart. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow in the room. Ji-hoon sat at the edge of the expansive bed, his dark eyes fixed on the city skyline beyond the window. The weight of the world felt heavier than ever. His thoughts were consumed by the events of the past few weeks, the betrayal from within his own ranks, the danger lurking at every corner, and the promise he had made to protect her. He could still hear her voice echoing in his mind, filled with uncertainty, yet laced with determination. I trust you, Ji-hoon. Those words had become his lifeline, anchoring him amidst the chaos. But as he glanced at the empty chair across from him, he felt the pang of loneliness. The silence in the room was deafening, a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotions that swirled within him. Meanwhile, at the small cafe down the street, Mina was seated with her coffee, scrolling through her phone. 3 years had passed since that fateful night when her life intertwined with Jihoon's. In many ways, she was a different person now, stronger, more resolute, yet still carrying the remnants of the fears that had once consumed her. The past had shaped her, but it was the future she was now fighting for. The cafe was bustling, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the sound of chatter and laughter. Yet Mina felt a sense of detachment, as if she were an observer in her own life. She had become adept at navigating the undercurrents of Jihoon's world, but the threat of danger was always present, lurking like a shadow. "Mina?" A voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back to the present. She looked up to see Hana, her close friend, approaching with a smile. "You look deep in thought. Everything okay?" Mina forced a smile, but her heart raced. "Just thinking about life, I guess." Hana sat down, concern etched on her face. "You know you can talk to me, right? It's been a lot for you. The Mafia life isn't easy to navigate." Mina nodded, grateful for her friend's support. "I know. Jihoon has been trying to protect me, but sometimes I feel like I'm living on the edge of a knife." As they spoke, Mina's phone buzzed with a message from Jihoon. The simple text sent a rush of emotions through her, anticipation, love, and a hint of anxiety. "I'll be home soon. Can we talk?" Her heart quickened. It was rare for him to initiate a conversation when he was busy with business. She glanced at Hana, who raised an eyebrow, sensing the sudden shift in Mina's mood. "What is it? Is he okay?" "I don't know, but he wants to talk." Mina's voice trembled slightly. "Then you should go. If he needs you, be there for him," Hana encouraged, her tone firm. Mina took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settling over her. "You're right, I should." As she stood up, she felt a mixture of excitement and dread. The past few years had taught her that their love was a double-edged sword. It brought immense joy, but also an ever-present danger. Back in the mansion, Jihoon paced the floor, his mind racing. The betrayal from Dayi had shaken him to his core, but what troubled him most was the thought of Mina caught in the crossfire. He had always kept her at arm's length, believing it was for her protection, yet it had only driven a wedge between them. He remembered the way her eyes sparkled with determination, the way she had stood by him even when the world seemed to collapse around them. Jihoon had never fully opened up to her about the depths of his world, but he realized that the time had come to share his burdens. Hearing the soft click of the door, Jihoon turned to see Mina entering the room, her presence instantly filling the void. "You wanted to talk?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. "Yes," he replied, motioning for her to sit. "There's something we need to discuss." Mina took a seat, her heart pounding in her chest. "What is it?" Jihoon hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. He betrayed me. He's been leaking information about our operations to rival families. I need to act before it escalates." Mina's eyes widened, the gravity of his words sinking in. "What does that mean for us?" "It means danger is closer than ever. I might have to make difficult decisions. I want you to understand what that means." She felt a wave of fear wash over her, but she couldn't let it show. "I can handle it, Jihoon. Just tell me what you need from me." His expression softened, and for a moment she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. "I want you to promise me that you'll stay safe. I can't lose you, Mina." She leaned forward, the distance between them shrinking. "You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere." For a heartbeat, they held each other's gaze, the connection between them palpable. But then the tension in the air shifted, a reminder of the reality they faced. "I need to take care of this," Jihoon said, breaking the moment. "But I also need you to trust me. I'm doing this for us." Mina nodded, determination rising within her. I trust you, Ji-hoon, but you also need to let me in. I can't be left in the dark. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You're right. I've been trying to protect you by keeping you away, but I realize now that it has only created more distance. As they spoke, the atmosphere shifted, the tension between them evolving into something deeper. They were two souls bound together by love and fear, navigating a world that constantly threatened to tear them apart. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, followed by hurried footsteps. Ji-hoon's instincts kicked in immediately. Stay here, he commanded, moving towards the door. But Mina felt a surge of defiance. No, I'm coming with you. He turned to protest, but the intensity in her eyes stopped him. I won't let you face this alone. Reluctantly, he nodded, realizing that her determination matched his own. Together, they stepped into the chaos unfolding outside their door. The sight that greeted them was one of turmoil. Several of Ji-hoon's men were gathered in the hallway, tension palpable in the air. What happened? Ji-hoon demanded, his voice low and commanding. It's Dae, one of his men reported, breathless. He's gone rogue. We found him trying to make a deal with a rival gang. Mina felt her heart race as Ji-hoon's expression hardened. Where is he now? In the warehouse. We need to move quickly. Without another word, Ji-hoon turned on his heel, Mina following closely behind. The adrenaline coursed through her veins as they navigated the maze of the mansion, their hearts beating in sync. In the car, the tension was thick. Ji-hoon's jaw clenched as he gripped the steering wheel, determination etched on his face. We'll end this tonight. Mina could see the resolve in his eyes, but she also felt the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Ji-hoon, be careful. I don't want to lose you. He glanced at her, his expression softening for a brief moment. You won't lose me. As they arrived at the warehouse, the air was thick with anticipation. Ji-hoon's men fanned out, weapons drawn, ready for whatever awaited them inside. Mina's heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear and adrenaline propelling her forward. Ji-hoon turned to her, his gaze fierce yet tender. Stay close to me. No matter what happens, I'll protect you. With a nod, they moved together into the shadows of the warehouse, the darkness enveloping them like a shroud. The atmosphere crackled with tension as they approached the inner sanctum where Dae was rumored to be hiding. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the halls. Ji-hoon, you think you can just walk away from this? You're weak. Dae's taunt reverberated through the space, and Ji-hoon's expression darkened. This ends now, Dae. As they rounded the corner, the scene that unfolded before them was chaotic. Dae stood with a group of men, weapons drawn, a manic glint in his eyes. You were always too soft, Ji-hoon. You think you can protect her? She's just a pawn in your game. Mina felt her heart drop at his words, but Ji-hoon remained steadfast. You've betrayed everything we built, Dae. This is your final warning. Dae laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Mina's spine. And what will you do? Kill me? You're not capable of that. In that moment, everything shifted. The tension snapped like a taut string, and chaos erupted. Shots rang out, and Ji-hoon instinctively pushed Mina behind him, shielding her from the danger. The world around them became a blur of movement and sound. Mina could barely process the chaos as Ji-hoon fought to protect her. She could see his strength and resolve, but it was the fear of losing him that gripped her heart. As the confrontation escalated, Ji-hoon's focus narrowed on Dae, a fierce determination burning in his eyes. Mina felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, a realization dawning. She couldn't be a passive observer in this world any longer. With a surge of courage, she stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. Ji-hoon, we can't let him win. We need to end this together. His gaze flickered to her, a mixture of surprise and admiration evident in his eyes. "Mina, stay back." But she shook her head, resolute. "No, I'm with you no matter what." In that moment of clarity, Ji-hoon realized that their bond was stronger than the chaos surrounding them. With a fierce nod, he turned his attention back to Dae, a new fire ignited within him. As they fought side by side, the world around them faded into the background. The connection they shared fueled their strength, and together they confronted the darkness that threatened to consume them. In the midst of the chaos, Mina caught Ji-hoon's eye, and a silent understanding passed between them. They were in this together, their love igniting a fierce determination to reclaim their future. The confrontation reached its zenith, and with a swift move, Ji-hoon disarmed Dae, pinning him to the ground. "This is over," Ji-hoon growled, his voice low and unwavering. Dae struggled against him, desperation etched on his face. "You'll regret this, Ji-hoon. You think you've won, but this is only the beginning." But Ji-hoon remained unfazed, his grip tightening. "No more games, Dae. You're done." As the dust settled and the chaos subsided, Ji-hoon turned to Mina, his expression shifting from fierce determination to something softer. "Are you okay?" She nodded, her heart racing. "I'm fine. We did it." In that moment of triumph, they realized the strength they had found in each other. The bond that had once been tested by fear and uncertainty had now solidified into something unbreakable. As they left the warehouse, the weight of the night began to lift. They stepped into the cool night air, the city lights twinkling like stars above them. Mina looked up at Ji-hoon, her heart swelling with emotion. "I knew we could do it." He smiled, a rare, genuine smile that ignited warmth within her. "I couldn't have done it without you." They stood together, the chaos of the night fading into the background. In that moment, they understood that their love had not only survived, but had thrived amidst the darkness. As they walked hand in hand, the promise of a new beginning hung in the air. The danger may have been behind them for now, but they knew the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges. Yet, together, they were ready to face whatever the future held. Because love, their love, was a force that could conquer all. And as they stepped into the uncertain dawn, they knew they would not face it alone. The bond that had forged in the fires of adversity would guide them forward, illuminating their path even in the darkest of times. In that moment, as the sun began to rise, they made a silent promise to one another, to embrace the future, to cherish their love, and to stand united against whatever storms lay ahead. For they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to write their own story, one filled with hope, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to each other. And as the first light of day broke over the horizon, they knew that their journey was only just beginning.